Welcome to the Stereoscopic Society's annual exhibition for 2023. Digital images were entered in 6 individual categories. These will be shown interspersed with sets of images from each of the selectors, and also entries in the common theme category. Once again, no traditional print entries were accepted this year, though slide entries were allowed. A new category for 2D to 3D converted images was also introduced. The first category is digital, people, pets and domestic animals. This attracted 31 images from 23 entrants.
We start the People and Pets section with Steve Hackett Acoustic, taken by Helen Boville at Sheffield City Hall in 2022. Ian Hasty saw this dog costume at Comic Con at the National Exhibition Centre. My Blue Heaven is by John Nichols. Those Eyes don't belong to Helen Boville's cat, just to a random one that she sees occasionally. Enjoy Your Meal, Madam is by Xiao Fenghua from China. Michael Taylor gives us this self-portrait. What are you looking at? Says Keith Webb's indignant granddaughter, Molly. Harry Atkinson shows us this evening view of busy shoppers on Broad Street, Wokingham. This outdoor market has been photographed by Xiao Fenghua. Valerie Photographs Kucam Owners is the work of Andrew Hurst. Looking for a Gift is by Denis Alishev. Keith Webb tells us, "This is my daughter's cat Coo posing for the camera." Ladybird and Harlequin was seen by Ian Hasty at the Comic Con exhibition at the NEC. Bob Taylor calls this image Tough Viking Wall Climb. Tudor Kitchen is by Neil Crick. Highland Games was taken by Dorothy Ondu Goodman during the 62nd Ligonier Highland Games in Pennsylvania. Nikolai Bazov says, "This will be a great photo." David Ford makes a stereo in the park of Newstead Abbey. Sunday Cricket was captured by Bernard Foote. Ian Hasty is at Comic Con at the NEC again. This time it's the cat costume. The Last Train to Steamville is by Carl Bromwich. Susan Pinsky shows us Gracie. Vanessa Grine has captured this picture of Brian May with Adam Lambert. She calls the image Rhapsody Tour. Another Comic Con image from Ian Hasty. This time it's Power Rangers. Carl Bromwich calls this image Lady of the Autumn. Girl in Blue at Twilight was captured by Neil Crick. David Kuntz has photographed Lübeck musicians. Lee Pratt shows us Our Texas Longhorn, and Lee says, "This is my brother-in-law's cow named Daisy." Jinriksha Boy is by Jeff Ogram. The next two images were commended. First, Bring Out the Band from David Starkman. Then Pigtails from David Hoppes. There are two runners-up in the People, Pets and Domestic Animals category, and the first is by Carl Bromwich and is entitled Autumn Princess. The second runner-up is Pass the Hay by Derek Medhurst. But the winner is Going for the Stick by George Themelis.
This set of images are by selector Kevin Harvey. The next category is digital scenery, and here 37 images were entered by 23 stereographers.
We start the scenery section with Jeff Ogram's image Jardin exotique in Aise. Rock and a Hard Place is Mary Paul's title for this image. The tree is managing to grow in a crack in these boulders. David Starkman has photographed Ye Olde Cobbled Lane. Rachel Miles has captured After the Rain. Next, Terry Turnberg gives us two floral country views. First, Signs of Spring. And next, Daisy, Daisy. Xiao Fenghua has photographed these potted plants in Flower Market 1. This picture of the lake at the Royal Horticultural Society's Hyde Hall is by Reg Self. Peter Blair's image Winter Morning Walk was taken at West Kilbride, Ayrshire. It's an iPhone Cha-Cha. Barry Reynolds gives us a view over Langham Pond, a small pond alongside the River Thames, close to the historic Runnymede site. Reg Self's picture here is of Loch Lomond in the Trossachs. Bill Hardy has captured this sunset at Higger Tor in the Peak District at the end of a late afternoon walk in December. Another potted plant picture from Xiao Fenghua, this time Flower Market 2. Whitstable Morning is by David Starkman. Bob Taylor's alliterative title for this image is Finnish Forest Foray. Andy Blakemore's image Autumnal Afternoon by the Pond was captured on a Fuji W3 at a local woodland park. Two pictures now from Roger Clements. First is Daffodils at the Croft, Northwest Highlands. And the second is Croft Back Garden, Mountain View. Terry Turnberg gives us Tulips from Amsterdam. Whilst Alan Wright is Looking Down on Grasmere. Harrogate Town Centre is by Harry Atkinson, taken during the 2022 convention. And James Hoppers has photographed Century Plant. This is the motherland of Porto wine. Nikolai Besov tells us, for some centuries similar boats transported barrels with wine from the Douro Valley grapeyards. Wintry Scene is by Reg Self. Walled Garden Holy Island was photographed by Maciek Samulski. Denis Alishev shows us this image taken inside Cheddar Caves. Maciek Samulski takes us to Lothlorien. Whilst Deep Frost on Car Roof was seen by George Collin. Rocks on Higger Tor is by Bill Hardy. Higger Tor is a gritstone outcrop in the Peak District near Sheffield. Roy Ashcroft shows us Loch Rig and its tarn. Ten Hatches, Fordington Watermeadows, Dorset, is by Michael Taylor. This is Glacier Point in Yosemite National Park, California. Photo by Lee Pratt. Blakemere is by George Collin and is the first of 3 commended images. Also commended is this fine black and white study, Reflections on the South Bank by Rachel Miles. The third commended image is Clouds by James Hoppers. There were 2 runners-up in the scenery category, the first being Roy Ashcroft with What do you mean there's a good path right to the top? The second runner-up is Lee Pratt with Bad Water in Death Valley. This is below sea level in Death Valley National Park, California. But the winner is Andrew Hurst with Mount Rainier from Port of Tacoma.
In the Common Theme category, members are invited to enter a set of up to 4 images with brief supporting text to illustrate their theme. There were 17 entries from 15 entrants.
We start the Common Theme section with 4 images from Brian Davis, demonstrating the wonders of Bryce Canyon. Brian comments, "We were absolutely taken by the size and wonder of this national park in the USA and all of its natural rock formations. It is very difficult to capture the scale of the location, but I feel that stereo helps to convey that feeling of scale." Neil Crick's theme is Portraits, illustrating ambient light use with subtle LED lighting to high-power rotolight at twilight. The first image, Tudor Musician, used available daylight. Likewise, Harp Hero was taken with available light. Lily with Lilies used LED fill-in lighting. And the last image, Girl in Blue, was taken with a rotolight at twilight. This set of pairs of views of glaciers, historic above and present below, are by Peter Blair. They are the photographic evidence of global warming. First is the Mer de Glace from Flégère 1910 and 2022. The second pair is the Mer de Glace from Montanvert 1863 by William England and 2022. Next, the Mer de Glace from Le Chapeau 1900 by Underwood and Underwood and 2022. Finally, the Glacier d'Argentière from Trèlechamp, 1908 by H.C. White and 2022. All these views are in the Chamonix-Mont Blanc Valley. John Bailey's theme is chain, and he shows us examples of chainsaw sculpture taken at Holt Park in Norfolk. Barry Aldous' theme is Broody Swan. He tells us, "On my daily walks down a local nature trail, I have the pleasure of watching the wildlife through the seasons. Here we have a broody swan on its nest in early spring 2022. A few weeks later, I can see that there are 5 eggs on the verge of hatching. So, we have an empty nest, but the swans will return next year. 5 cygnets are now learning to swim, and so the story goes on." Harry Atkinson's theme is Wokingham Antique Market, and the first picture is Welcome to the Market. Next, Workshop 74, where modern lights are made from old equipment. More details of the lamps. And again, more details of the creations. Linda Lamon-Corneli's theme is Maize Wood, and her environmental project to record the young native forest started in 2013. This is the first oak planted, now maturing. And this is Field Scabious. Linda has recorded the trees, shrubs and wildflower meadows every season since the start. Here are Wayfaring Berries. In 2023, the project celebrates its 10th anniversary. Linda has also recorded the different insect species that are being attracted. Here is a St. Mark's fly on Gelder Rose Blossom. Dennis Alishev's theme is A Baltic Day in Pollock Park in Glasgow. Baltic is the Glaswegian word for a very cold day. All the images were cha-chas taken with a mobile phone. Final editing was done with 3D steroid. Mary Paul shows us Fallen. After a big winter storm in Bury, this old tree blew over amongst the headstones and onto a fresh grave. Amazing that no headstones were broken, though a few ended up leaning a little bit. The dying tree branches shattered into thousands of pieces when it hit the ground. Mike Hilliard's set of images are on the theme Cruising the Kennet and Avon Canal. First we see narrowboats moored at Bath. Next, we pass many different types of craft. Here we see the magnificent ladder of locks that takes the canal up to Devizes. Nearing the top of the ladder, this experienced skipper only bothers to open one gate. Carl Bromwich tells us tent pegging is a cavalry sport of ancient origin. It is one of only 10 disciplines recognised by the International Equestrian Federation. The photographs here were all taken at a competition in Bradford. This set of images of magical creatures are a joint project by Vanessa Grein and David Kuntz. This one is entitled Unicorn. Here we have Close Encounters. These are all multi-image composites utilising images photographed at a winter lights exhibition in Germany. This one is called Pegasus. And this one is Puff. We don't need no education. In this series, Nino Trentinella explores the theme of conformity in the education system. The first image is schoolchildren. And the second, teacher. Nino believes that the rigid and outdated societal norms of the Victorian era are mirrored in today's mainstream education system, which too often prioritises compliance over creativity and critical thinking. This is Art Lesson. And finally, Upload. Through these images, Nino aims to spark a dialogue about the need for a more progressive and individualised approach to education. And also by Nina Trentinella, we have Synthetica, the intersection of progress and tradition. This series explores the theme of the convergence of technology past and present. First, Victorian woman meets AI. Next, robotic dog. In all these images, robots and cyborgs represent the future, interacting with Victorians representing the past. And now, doctor's office. All of Nino's images are made using AI technologies and Photoshop. Finally, Robot Maker. John Chapman's theme is Minerals in Extreme Macro, and this set was commended. He shows us naturally occurring minerals photographed in the microscopical scale. The first image is allophane and cerussite. The second is cerussite V-twin. The pictures are taken either through a stereo microscope or by means of a lens on bellows, taking stacks at 3 different angles to combine as 3D images. The third is Max's 5mm anglicite crystal. And finally, mimetite and malachite, 4.5mm wide. The runner-up in the common theme images is Bernard Foote with his theme Extreme Macro Images of a Watch. Bernard says, watches are great subjects for extreme macro photography because of the wealth of detail in the images. These images were made with various lenses on a bellows assembly. The technique used was to take the right-hand image, then rotate the camera bellows assembly through 5 degrees, then move the camera bellows assembly to the left until the subject area is back in the frame, and finally take the left-hand image. But the winning set of images is from Brian Davis and shows the detail of the parting statue at St Pancras Station in London. Brian comments, all buildings being built or substantially altered should, according to the regulations, incorporate works of art of 2% of the construction cost. And I think that the 2 statues added to this station are excellent and worthy of their place.
Now we have the category Digital Buildings Inside and Out. This attracted 32 images from 24 stereographers.
First in the Buildings category is Gary's Old Barn by Lee Pratt. Lee explains, "This is my brother-in-law's old barn in Georgia." Barry Reynolds shows us the magnificent vaulting of the Undercroft at Fountains Abbey, Yorkshire, which is a prime example of medieval Gothic architecture in England. Next, James Hoppers has photographed windows. Gothic ceiling of Elgin Cathedral is by Maciek Samolski. Here, Reg Self is showing us the RAF Club entrance hall. This view of the Roman amphitheatre of Hierapolis near Pamukkale in Turkey is by Denis Alishev. Alan Wright's image is called Venice Backstreet. Stairwell is by Andrew Holt. Rob Cayley's image, Columns and Shadows, was taken at St George's Hall, Liverpool. David Starkman calls this picture Past Time. Aqua Bookshop, Venice, is by Alan Wright. French Barn is the work of Brian Davis. Andy Raven asks, "Did the church always end here?" Bob Price has photographed Canterbury Cathedral nave. Brian Davis shows us the entrance to Sumago Palace in Japan. Susan Pinsky calls this image Hallway to Nowhere. Old Warden Park Glasshouse was photographed by George Collin. Notre-Dame du Sablon is by Nikolai Bazov. This 15th century Gothic style church is situated in the centre of Brussels, not far from the Royal Palace. Bob Price's title for this picture is The Wages of Mammon. It is to be found in the south wall of Lincoln Cathedral. Dorney Court is by Bernard Foote. Barry Alders took this image of Harewood House during the 2022 convention using a twinned Sony RX100 rig. This view of Coventry Cathedral is by John Nichols. And this iPhone char-char of the kitchen at Standon is by Peter Blair. Standon is a National Trust property. Brian Davis has photographed this richly decorated church interior. He calls it Altar Detail Croatia. Bob Price asks, leper or beggar? This is on the south wall of Lincoln Cathedral. Interesting Stairway is by Mary Paul. She explains, "It was in the stately home that we visited on the 2022 Harrogate outing." Vanessa Grine shows us Malmaison. In this commended image, Bob Price has photographed Lincoln Cathedral nave. Also commended is Michael Taylor's picture of Winchester Cathedral crypt. There are two runners-up in the buildings category, and the first is Alan Wright's picture of the Calle dei Morti in Venice. The second is Jerusalem Synagogue in Prague by David Kuntz. And the winner is also David Kuntz with his picture of Český Krumlov at night. taken at the recent ISU Congress.
Next, we have the new category 2D to 3D conversions. Here there were 33 images from 15 entrants.
We start the 2D to 3D converted images section with Starting Back from Scafell Pike from Roy Ashcroft. Next, a stereo conversion of one of Keith Webb's own artworks. Many hands make light work, but they do not normally grow on trees. Roy Ashcroft again, and Roy shows us the upper courtyard of Haddon Hall. Queen Elizabeth II is by Neil Crick. Fish in Space is another stereo conversion of one of Keith Webb's own artworks. The concept just appealed to him. Roger Clements has spotted this on Blackpool Prom. Read the label, only for horses. Trampoline Fun is a Layerpix 2D to 3D conversion by Greg Foster. Roger Clements gives us Santa's Little Helper. It looks like rain, dear. Ho, ho, ho. This handsome long-tailed tit was taken in 2D by Greg Foster and converted to 3D with the Layerpix converter. Hong Kong Shatin Racecourse is by Paul Hutchins. And Paul also gives us this picture of fireworks. Next, two pictures from David Hensel. First, Pink Ribbons is a photo of a pencil drawing 76 by 56 centimetres. And then Mermaid is a photo of a coloured pencil drawing, the same size. Now Bob Taylor gives us Geranium. Paul Hutchins again, and this time it's Canary Wharf. Mike Hilliard's ST Paint conversion is a picture of his twin daughters on the beach in Cornwall, late 1970s. Nottingham Light Night 1 is a 2D to 3D Layerpix conversion by Greg Foster. This event draws huge crowds, so night photography and crowds present lots of challenges for photographers. Nottingham Light Night 2 is also by Greg. Layerpix has worked particularly well here. Dorothy Ondu Goodman's picture of a cliff dwelling at Mesa Verde Park, Colorado, was taken with a Samsung A4 and converted with Layerpix. John Nichols has photographed Lombard Street, San Francisco. Palença, Majorca Street View was taken by Peter Blair on an iPhone and converted using 3D Combine version 6. Roy Ashcroft shows us Early Morning Mist seen from Neum Crag. With Love from Maze Wood is a Layerpix conversion picture from Linda Lemon Corneli. Next, two conversions of pencil drawings from David Hensel. First, Fading Amaryllis. And now, With My New Glasses, a coloured pencil self-portrait 29 by 23 centimetres. Paul Hutchins has photographed Brimham Rocks in North Yorkshire. Your Future is Clear is by Carl Bromwich. Next, Papelwick Reservoir. Greg Foster has converted this 2D image to 3D using the Layerpix converter. Barry Aldous shows us Eggs for Sale. Two geese proudly running their egg business. To See the World in a Grain of Sand is by Nino Trentinella. It is a visual interpretation of the first line of the poem by William Blake. Sicilian Temple by Paul Hutchence is a commended image. And also commended is David Hensel's Light Relief, a photo of a coloured pencil drawing. The runner-up in the 2D to 3D conversion category is this image of a child from the past imagining futuristic transportation. It is by Nino Trentinella. And the winner is Totem Links, also by Nino Trentinella. Nino tells us felines are a symbol of rebirth, resurrection and protection.
The next set of images is the work of selector Denis Burzma. The category Digital, Creative and Imaginative produced 17 images from 11 entrants.
We start the Creative and Imaginative section with David Kuntz's Electric Colour. Next, it's Michael Taylor with Smoke Dreams. Bob Phillips presents Dance Practice in the Harem. And Derek Medhurst shows us Ghostly Steeplechasers. House and Garden Compact is by Andy Raven. And Red Cats at Night is Susan Pinsky's creation. Whilst Demogorgon is the invention of David Starkman. Continuing her theme of red, Susan Pinsky shows us Fantasy Flame of a Red Car. On Praia do Barril Beach, Portugal, Barry Reynolds has photographed Anchor Cemetery, a rusting reminder of the tuna fishing community that once flourished in the area. In a World of Their Own was created by Bob Phillips. Anyone There is by Keith Webb, and Keith says, two gentlemen whom I met in our local high street. They did not say much for themselves. Vanessa Grind's title for this image is Descendium. Sophie Meets Sophie is the work of Jeff Ogram. Unexpected Incident is the creation of Bob Phillips. As is this commended image, Mirror Room. The runner-up in the Creative and Imaginative section is Andy Raven with Cheers All Round. But the winner is Bob Phillips with his creation, Welcome to Our Home.
In the slide category, 5 entrants submitted work, and we had 17 images.
We start the slides category with Ken Ford's image Red and Red. Hurstmonceux Castle is by Nikolai Bazov. Restored in the 20th century, the largest English brick castle was photographed in 2005. Going Down is from the camera of Francis Heath. John Bailey shows us Maligne Lake in Alberta, Canada. Mushroom Canopy in Seville was taken by Jeff Ogram. Francis Heath has photographed Beach Babes. Drinking Fountain at Gorin in France is by John Bailey. Francis Heath gives us a view of the Birks of Aberfeldy. And Ken Ford shows us a big fish. Uluru, aka Ayers Rock, in the middle of Australia, is John Bailey's subject here. Souk Entrance is by Ken Ford. Francis Heath has spotted this Highland Piper. And here, Francis is taking the view from Sawney Mountain in Georgia, USA. High Tech Road is by Ken Ford. John Bailey has photographed the Sphere Within a Sphere sculpture in the Vatican Gardens, Rome. The runner-up in the slide section was Vatican Gardens, Cascina Pio IV by Nikolai Bazov, a cha-cha that he made through the open window of the Vatican Palace 25 years ago. But the winner is Ken Ford with Crackers.
The category Digital Man-Made Objects attracted 37 images from 24 stereographers.
We start the Man-Made Objects section with Neil Crick and Concord at Rest. Bottles on a window ledge in Salts Mill, Saltaire, was taken by Rob Cayley with his Fuji W3. One of the many statues in Paris, photographed by Dorothée Ondu Goodman. She explains, some people in love attached a lock and threw the key in the River Seine. Wokingham local artist Catsy has decorated the Embrook Stream footbridge. Photo by Harry Atkinson. Verity is by John Nichols. And Fireworks number 1 is by Alan Wagstaff. Harry Atkinson calls this image Adversarial Motorcyclists, a hoarding spotted on Reading Road in Wokingham. Reg Self has found this fishing boat rigging at Leigh-on-Sea. Venetian Masks is by Alan Wright. George Collin has photographed Shuttleworth biplanes. Chihuly is Vanessa Grind's title for this image of a glass sculpture by Dale Chihuly. Dennis Alishev tells us tea is served. This very crisp image by Bernard Foote shows a 45 RPM record groove. Alan Wagstaff has another image of fireworks, this time Fireworks 2. Mary Paul shows tools on display. These retired tools enhanced the walls of an enclosed garden. Anthony James's image Origny E195 landing at Gatwick was taken from sequential video footage inspired by David Ford's article in our journal. And here is another of Anthony's aircraft images, WestJet Boeing 787 Dreamliner landing at Gatwick, taken in the same way. Rob Cayley shows us Groin Detail, New Brighton Beach. Glass Blowers is by Andrew Hurst. Alan Wagstaff gives us a scented walk under this fine laburnum tunnel. Another of Anthony James's aircraft images, Emirates A380 landing at Gatwick. Maciek Samulski shows us the Kelpies at Falkirk. This view of the engine room on the paddle steamer Waverley was taken by Peter Blair. Dorothée Andu-Goodman's image Car is of a Traction Avant Citroën redesigned, taken with a W3 whilst holidaying in France. Kansas oil rig. Lee Pratt has photographed an active running oil rig on the prairie in Kansas. Number 7 Bush Row is from the camera of Jeff Ogram. View Suspended is by Barry Reynolds. He made this image of Michael Schumacher's 2010 Mercedes Formula One car at an exhibition at Mercedes-Benz World. Emirates Airbus A380 landing at Gatwick is by Anthony James, taken from sequential video footage inspired by David Ford's article in our journal. Knife Angel, a phone charger of a statue which travels the country as part of a campaign to reduce knife crime, image by Rob Cayley. This shot of Chihuly glass is by Andrew Hurst. As is this detailed close-up of brass valves. The next 3 images are commended, and the first is another aircraft image from Anthony James entitled Emirates A6 EEV Airbus A380 landing at Gatwick. Rob Cayley calls this commended image Killer Clown. It was taken at a temporary exhibition of costumes from Killing Eve. Derek Medhurst calls this image of a rebuilt Battle of Britain class locomotive Sir Archibald Sinclair, also commended. There are 2 runners-up in the man-made objects category, and the first is entitled Aluminium by James Hoppers. And the second, by Andrew Holt, he calls Heading In. The winning image is Stone Monument by Amanda Moore, Dorset, by Michael Taylor.
Selector Andrzej Jablonski provided the next set of images. The final category is Digital Natural History. Here, 20 entrants provided 37 images.
The first image in the natural history section is Mustard Seeds by John Chapman. And John also shows us Seeds for Bees, another of his fine macro images. Mike Hilliard has photographed Comma on Strelitzia. This was taken at the Tresco Abbey Gardens on the Isles of Scilly. Extreme Frost is Helen Boville's title for this image of fallen leaves in a local park that have gathered frost upon frost. Bob Taylor calls this image Four Railings versus Tree. Flying Flower was photographed by Xiao Fenghua. Fenghua is our member from China. Rose Hip Sunrise at Swanage Railway was taken by Roger Clements. Red Clover is by John Chapman. Terry Turnber has caught this Painted Lady on Buddleia. And Derek Medhurst calls this image Frosted. Linda Lamont Keneally has photographed Old Man's Beard, a wild clematis, at Maze Wood. This autumn Gelder rose was also photographed by Linda in Maze Wood. Yellow Dungfly was photographed by John Nichols. Native Bluebells at Sunrise is a cha-cha image by Linda Lamont Keneally. Terry Turnber calls this photograph Posy Seagull. Forest Hills Cemetery was photographed by Susan Pinsky. George Collin shows us Oak Leaves in Winter. And Andy Raven says that this flower is standing out. Branch Lines is Andrew Holt's punny title for this image. Velociraptor was taken at the National Museum of Natural History in Paris by Dorothée Ondu Goodman. This macro shot from Bob Price is of lichen cladonia and moss. Mike Hilliard photographed this thrush at Tresco Abbey Gardens using a Panasonic 3D1. And here he captured this heron in flight on the Kennet and Avon Canal. Highland Cow was photographed by Maciek Samulski. This macro picture of the head of a notched horned clegfly was made by John Chapman. And another macro shot, this time from Bernard Foote, showing a stinging nettle sting. Next, Bob Taylor shows us Cooperative Fly. Bees on an unidentified bush. A much admired bush in Barry Aldous' front garden is very popular with the bees. Barry says, 2 bees or not 2 bees? That is not the question. The question is the identification of the bush. Sarracenia Pictures is by Derek Medhurst. Follow the Leader was taken on Curverville Island, Antarctica by Helen Boville. The Columnia plant, a particularly dramatic and photogenic houseplant, reminds Barry Reynolds of flying fish and is often referred to as the goldfish plant. It hails from the American tropics. The next 5 pictures were commended, and first we have Orchid Cleveland Botanical Gardens by George Themelis. Helen Boville calls this commended image "the one that got away." It was taken on a boat trip along the East Yorkshire coast from Bridlington to Bempton. Misty Cobwebs by Mary Paul shows spiders' webs draped on the side of a derelict truck that hasn't moved in years. This image was commended. This commended image Barry Aldous calls "Me and My Shadow," a bee captured in flight as it arrives at the gazanias. The final commended image is again from George Themelis. Turtle says hi. George scores again as the runner-up in the natural history category with "I Love Nuts." And yet again as the winner with "Eagle Close-Up."
Each year we select an image which we regard as the standout image over all of the categories. Next, we look back at these overall winners from the past 6 years. In 2017, the winner was Roy Ashcroft with En Route to Blake Rig. Kevin Harvey won the award in 2018 with A Figure in the Arches. In 2019, Lee Pratt was the winner with Fishing in Colorado. In 2020, George Themelis was the winner with Hawk. And George was winner again in 2021 with Pet Fox. In 2022, Barry Aldous was the winner with Late Autumn Morning Walk. We now recap on the winners from each of the 2023 categories. And now we announce that the overall winner of the Stereoscopic Society Annual Exhibition 2023 is George Themelis with Eagle Close-Up.